classroom that were made. And so I just went back. We started this process in September. So if I were to click on each one of these features, sorry Chris, this is all backwards, it's the down instead of the up. Each month, changes were made. So the feedback that teachers can give Google and how quickly Google responds to that is amazing. I mean, things even just as simple as being able to organize where things fit on your page. You know, for some people it really bothered them that, you know, the oldest material that you were putting on went to the bottom, or the newest material, excuse me, went to the bottom. And so that, you know, Google Classroom listened to teachers, and now they have it so you can rearrange to where, you know, new material can go to the top. It's those types of things that might not seem like a big deal, but when you have a certain way of doing something and you like to organize things a specific way, it feels good to be heard. So the other major change I think was the grade book. They made some major changes to the grade book, which it's not perfect, but they listened. And so the other thing too that I'll just quickly talk about are the Guardian summaries. So as students get added into your classrooms, the Guardian summaries can come to you. Parents have an option. They can do it daily, or you can get a weekly update. And so what the parent sees, here's a sample.
Scroll down.
I'm trying. It's the opposite. But what the parents see is things like, here's a weekly summary, you know, any conversations or anything that goes into the classroom, parents get the update about. Any upcoming assignments, the parents get updates about. Any missing work, which the missing work was something that we all had to kind of get used to, because it would look where material was missing when really it was the kids forgot to turn it in, or I forgot to return it, or whatever. It was kind of a mess, but you know, that's what you do with something new. You just kind of roll with it. And having a great group of kids, a great group of parents, lots of support from Chris, we've survived. So here's some of the things that my takeaway from this. Oops, I want to go back. No, pause, sorry. There's a learning curve. You know, at first it was hard, and it was not easy to learn all of this new technology, especially when you're kind of programmed or you're trained to do it a certain way. But having stuck with it, I'm so glad I did. It really was a really amazing experience for me. So you think about this experience of using Google Classroom as kind of like getting a new iPhone, like getting a new cell phone, right? Like, you think you're doing everything right, I'm mastering it, I'm doing all these cool things, and you're like, ooh, yeah, I'm just kind of scratching the surface. So that's that feeling of not being overwhelmed of all of the possible things that you could do. Just when you think you've done something cool, there's one more thing to do. And so to just kind of keep plugging away with all of the new things that teachers are doing. And this is another one where Chris and I have had a conversation about lots of times. You know, we kind of, as we walk into a teacher's room, we look at the walls and we kind of judge the things that are going on. Like, oh, there's a lot of great things going on here. There's, you know, things all over the walls, and look at all of that. And so one of the ways that I struggled was that I was lacking that in my room. You know, I didn't have the things on the wall other than the anchor charts and that. But had you taken my computer and sat down and looked through the classroom, you would see all the things that the kids are doing. And so that was a personal struggle for me, that I felt this need to like feel like, wow, my walls are bare. But do I print off all of these assignments that I really am just trying to go, use less paper with? So that really was a struggle. So one way that, hopefully Chris and I and everybody else can think about, how do we really give credit to kids when all of their work is done digitally? And I learned this one too, that adults are more afraid of change than the kids. So there's lots of days when I was like, guys, I saw this idea, let's give it a try. And so I was more paranoid about that than the kids. Were like, oh yeah, Mrs. Borbray, this works really cool. Look what we can do. And so, knowing that I could walk in and have an idea and not really know how it was going to go, but to have the kids run with it was really exciting. And also having the mindset for technology. being able to look at something, a stack of papers or a packet or something that you've always done a certain way, and thinking, how can I change this? How can I make this more 21st century learner? How can I meet my students' needs by adding some technology to this? That was something that I really found myself doing this year, and that felt really good. Think about how can I do this different and better. And time, less time at the copy machine, less time grading papers, less time handing out papers, very efficient. I asked the kids what they thought of Google Classroom, and so I just thought I'd share this with you.
I like Google Classroom because it's very easy to get to link. And you can also have the app on your phone, so whenever you have like a missed assignment, you can see it, you can get a notification on it.
I like that Google Classroom has a to-do list so you can see all your upcoming assignments. Also, that there's a calendar so you can see your assignments' due dates.
One of the reasons I really like Google Classroom is because it's really easy to add things. So you can add or you can create. For this, I'm just going to create one. And then you can choose a doc, a slide, a sheet, or you can do a drawing. I'm just going to do a doc. And then if you want, you can just turn it in and you can add things to it. And then it's just a normal doc. And you can add things and then you can just turn it in. And everything's attached. I like Google Classroom because it's very plain.
All right, and I did want to highlight some of the projects that we did. So the picture of the tamping iron, that's Phineas Gage, if anyone knows who that is. But the neat part about this is we read this book and then the kids designed the tamping iron, and so Chris gracefully, printed how many tamping irons, Chris? 15 weapons. They, made sure we hot glued in so they stayed there. But then, the fun part was they got to jam it through their own head. So they paper mached their own head. Yeah, what are you gonna do? It's 6th grade. The other thing is so Tinkercad. Oh my gosh, the kids just love Tinkercad, and this is a snowflake actually that they created. And the funny thing about this was one of the kids said that they showed it to their parent and they thought that they went into the gallery and just copied it, because you can do that. I'll show you again just another one. Remove BG. I don't know if anyone has ever used that before, but it's where you can take a picture of yourself, put it over another picture, and you can there's Fatima. She's on the red carpet. That was a fun one. And then again, Adobe Spark. Oops, wrong one. Sorry. Adobe Spark takes us to just an infographic. This connected to Sell by Starlight, which was a read aloud that we did. So as you can see, the projects are there. It's just they're in classrooms. So anytime come on in, I'll show you how we're using it, and yeah, absolutely great experience. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm all set. Thank you. I know, and it's small, and it's all backwards.
Okay, so for me, with Google Classroom, I'm going to be completely honest. I wasn't sold from the get-go. I even went to Bill and was like, I can't. I'm so ingrained with Schoology, I can't do this. For me, all of my teaching is here at Hamilton. So for me, all of my teaching was Schoology. And it was really hard for me to just kind of abandon and do something totally different. But Bill told me I had to stick with it, so I stuck with it. And as Jamie said, I'm really glad that I did. The nice thing about Google is that there's a ton of stuff on Google. And for me, the reason that I said Google Classroom and beyond is that Google Classroom was more for me than just Google Classroom. Like, it opened up doors for a bunch of other different technology opportunities. I reached out and joined a bunch of different like Google Classroom groups and technology groups, and yes, they were on Facebook, and I feel silly saying that, but it was just a really nice way to collaborate with people all over and share ideas. And if you had a struggle, saying like, hey, how did you guys get through this? And you kind of talked back and forth with people who were also doing it with you. So for me, that was really nice, and I felt re-inspired. Last year was a little bit of a different year for me, and I think part of that was because I was gone for half of the year, so it was weird to kind of, go on maternity leave and then come back. And I think I really needed something like this because I was so excited to try new stuff, and I was inspired again to try new things. So I kind of grabbed a hold of anything and kind of ran with it. So Google Classroom for me was a lot more. But I have to thank Mr. Rogers, because there was a million times where I would call or email and be like, I know this is probably a 30-minute or 30-second answer, but I'm lost. And he always, no matter what, was like, yep, just click this button, or you're on the wrong page. Or he would come down, give up his time, work with my whole class, or sometimes just tell me, let the kids figure it out, let the kids show me. So, Chris, you were a huge help for me. So what I said that I was in like with was that really Google can do anything. There's so many different things with Google. Things were easily linked to Google. I was already using Google Docs, Google Slides, Google Sheets, all that stuff with Schoology. It just was sort of like one less button to click as far as putting it to Classroom versus just Schoology. Organization was really great. Everyone sees the same thing. I think the nice part was like that grade immediacy was gone a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, I still have some Schoology because I really, really like the grade book. But the immediacy is gone, where it's like you get a grade, poof, they can see it. There is sort of those reports. You can see who's turned it in at a glance. It says turned in, not turned in. Google Forms, the collaboration, and then like Jamie said, the feedback from Google. It's really nice to be able to say your question and then kind of either have Chris figure it out for you or help you figure it out, or have somebody out there in the World Wide Web help you. And then what I love about Google is all these really cool things that I was able to try this year. A lot of them I felt like I maybe bit off more than I could chew, and it took me weeks on end to do, but the last bullet, which really should be the first one, is that now that I've done it, I have it forever. It's not something like with Schoology where if I go in and do a rubric, it's gone at the end of the year. These things that I did are now there forever until my account gets shut down or whatever happens. But so just, to be mindful of your time, like I just have a couple of like links. So like for math, trying something new as far as reviewing versus giving a packet. Like a great big packet, here you go, take it home, and they probably just recycle it or throw it away or burn it or do whatever. I just created a hands-on website or Google Slides, so they could come to this page and then before the quiz, they can click on any of these links. So if they were feeling really good about order of operations but needed more help with one-step equations, they just click the link and it takes it right to the page, they do the work, and then when they're done, they click down here and it takes you to the answers. So again, it took me forever, but now I have this forever to use, and the kids really liked it. I was able to share it with Mrs. Cunningham, who works in my room during math, and she has a lot of my math kids for resource, so they were able to do it during resource time, and they can just keep doing it over and over and over and over and over again. So every time they go back in, it resets. So this was really helpful. And then, I don't want to click on like all of them. This was another one I was really excited about. The kids were excited, but not quite as excited as I was. But again, it's sort of review instead of doing like an article or something like that. I did a choose your own ending. I don't know if you really kind of know what that is, but so they start with, are they a farmer, a king, a scribe, or a woman? They click on those, and then it takes them through a series of stories. Some are obviously longer than others, depending on which role you choose. So if they click on a scribe, it takes them to the first step, and then from there, they click on the next one, and it works them through the stories of whoever they chose. And then at the end, I had a Google like exit ticket in the like sort of like a Google form, having them kind of wrap up the whole story. So that was another, just something new. Sort of like what Jamie was saying, as far as like, you're not really ever gone. My son was really, really sick this year, and I had to be out. And it's always really hard with a sub, and I had left something new. So I had actually created a Padlet, which is an online discussion, and it's live right there. So I was able to be on it at home and have the kids be on it here, so that if they had questions that the sub couldn't answer, I was able to answer it for them. So we went back and forth all over. Of course, it's not going to show you. And then at the end, I just kind of asked the kids if they felt like it was helpful or not, and they said it was, because they could get the answers to their questions immediately. So it's kind of like I'm gone, but I'm not really gone. And the same thing, I did a digital assignment for math, so that it wasn't just like have another study hall or do something that you've done a million different times. It was a digital assignment that I could also be on with them if they needed help. So that was helpful. Google and then some. I mean, the list really could go on and on of all the different things that you can do with this and that you can find out there in the world that you could do. PBS learning, flipped classrooms, Padlet is another one, quick links, Newsella, I use that a lot. It's articles that you can literally just one click and it goes into Google Classroom and you can use it for whatever you need to use it for. I won't click on the links just because I know it's been up here a long time. And like I said, for me, this was so much more than just Google Classroom. I mean, it opened the doors for a million different things. Things that I use all the time now. Things like Nearpod, Edpuzzle, quizzes, Kahoot. Quizzes and Kahoot, the kids love. They're online quizzes. They have funny music, they have funny memes, and the kids just go crazy over them. You can create your own, you can use ones that are already out there. Nearpod and Edpuzzle are more like articles that have embedded questions in them. Like Edpuzzle, we did one today in math as sort of like our modified version of a flipped classroom, because not all my kids have technology at home. So we did it as a warm-up to get ready for converting measurements, and then we went on about our time. So some new and exciting things. We did a lot of digital stuff this year, especially like in reading. So instead of doing written journals, we did Google Sites, which Chris really helped me with. It took me probably 45 minutes to set up mine that wasn't even correct, and he came down and had the kids do it in about 30 seconds, so it was really embarrassing. But I had the kids do a digital journal versus like in a journal writing, and it was tons of different stuff. So we did that. That's just another Google site. We did book snaps. We do a lot of annotations in my room. So we tried doing some digital annotating this year. We took a picture and then annotated the book digitally. So that was something new. Book collages, the kids really liked that. It was really fun. Sort of like bring things in that were in the book. Some new things that I'm trying, like really new, like within the last week and a half, is I have a couple of groups that I felt like I was always focusing on the negatives, like stop doing that, sit down, put your phone away, stop talking. And so I tried to do the flip and reward the positive things that were happening. And so this thing that I found, again, out there linked to Google Classroom is called Classcraft. And we're still kind of figuring out the kinks, but it's a way for us to kind of keep track the kids.
You didn't tell me you were doing this.
Oh, well, I just started it. Like before break. The kids really, really love it. Maybe I can do this really quickly. But so I can add in assignments, and they're called quests. And so, yeah, so the kids get to create like an avatar, and then there's all these, not weapons, powers and things that are put in. So like they get to be on their phone for 2 minutes if they reach a certain amount of positive points. They get to leave class like a minute early. They get a homework pass. But then there's all these different quests. Now, I'm not a gamer, so it's that holy grail thing. I didn't really know what to put. So, but when you go in, I've linked all these different assignments, and again, so they're linked right to Google Classroom. So they do them, and then depending on if they get them done, and if it's correct, and if it's on time, they get all these different points, and it goes in, and yada, 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 and they get to go through all these different kingdoms. So we're still figuring it out, but the kids are really excited about it. Of course, they heard gaming, and they thought, you know, the world was ending. And then the last thing I literally called Chris about this today that I've been batting around is I love to display the kids' work, but at the same time, the kids love to take their work home and show their parents. And I always say, oh, this is refrigerator work. Like, go put this home, because my work was always displayed on the refrigerator with my parents. So I would display it for as long as I could until the kids had to take it home and I had to, you know, give it up. So I asked Chris, is there some way that I could digitally do this, like, digital refrigerator? So again, Chris with like 10 seconds was like, Google Sites. So here's our refrigerator. So I can just keep adding, and this way I can display, that shouldn't be squished, but I don't have to give the kids work back. I can just keep displaying it. Now this is a wonderful essay in case anybody would like to read it. It really is good too. It's just a great topic, but it's really good.
Can we link through that one in there?
I did, yeah. I put that right at the top. So like here's, you know, Owen's informational essay. You know, here's a slideshow presentation, a couple of posters that I scanned in. But again, now I can display it all the time, and I can send it out to all the kids and all the families. And it's like our own digital refrigerator in our classroom so that we can constantly be displaying our work. And I'm not going to keep clicking on these. I mean, it's just more new stuff. It really, it's just, the list literally goes on. Like Seesaw is another thing. There's tons and tons of stuff on there, and it's all linked. Everything is linked, and it's out there. So my last thing is just the areas of struggle that I had with this. The big one was I wasn't really a big fan of Gradebook, but I think that's because I kept comparing it to Schoology. I was so used to Schoology, and Schoology was so easy, and it was right there. You could look right at it, and it was beautiful and lovely, and Google Classroom wasn't quite like that for me. So for me personally, I wasn't a fan. I didn't like that there's no advisor dashboard, whereas Schoology I can type into a kid's name and see everything. I really like that. The organization for me is a little bit wonky, like not really for my liking in some places. The return process is another big one, like you have to return everything. If I forget, then the kids are at a holdup, so that was another kind of like bump in the road for me. And then the whole turn-in thing, like even if it's a piece of paper that they wrote on, they still have to physically go in and click turn in. So for me, those were just my areas of struggle that I had with it. But overall, I mean, this, like Jamie was saying, this really was, it was really great. I needed it. It was like a refresher for me. There's constant new things out there. Like every day, my Facebook stream is now like, it's no longer my friends. It's all these like groups that I'm a part of. And it's really great to see what's out there. So, and the kids know more than I do. They can do more than I can do. I have kids, Brianna sent me an invite to a classroom that she had created for, you know, for groups. So the kids are using these things. So it's just really great. There's no other way to put it. So I really appreciate the time that you let us spend on this, and with Chris, who always gives up his time and continues to. So that's all I have.
Any questions?
I do wonder how you deal with students that have limited access at home, maybe they don't have internet access, or, I mean, 6th grade is still pretty young to have a phone for a lot of kids, or even having a device.
You'd be surprised, but yes.
Better access to.
You're just flexible with things being late, flexible with making sure that they're using their time, or give a little, you know, an extension. And that's the other thing, you can change the due dates on things for individual kids. So knowing that something, you know, might take a couple of more days to do, you can change it so that it doesn't look late for a specific student. No, being flexible with those types of things.
Are there ways they can do some of this online or offline, so they can still do some work?
I believe so. I mean, it's you can do that in Google. I mean, Google Docs, work offline, and then connect it once you get into, yeah.
I know for me, I have some kids, like especially my math group, I do have to print some stuff out hard copy because a lot of my math kids don't have access to technology at home. So as far as like that group, I mean, there are still places where I have to print stuff out hard copy. Like, or I have a basket in the back of my room where it'll be like, if you want a copy, it's back there. You know, I'll print out maybe 10 versus 50, which is nice. So.
And it's still a balance, you know, it's still a balance of using technology and using it, you know, to its potential, but still thinking that there's organizational skills and there's skills that have to be taught using paper and pencil. And so that's the other part of it is how do you do this but still teach the skills that they're going to need, you know, especially when you have teachers that maybe aren't as, you know, on board yet with some of the technologies. You still have to have those, still have to write things in a agenda. You still have to, you know, have those basic skills. So
because with technology, there's always issues. It's always like it works when it wants to work, but when you really, really need it, something happens. So like Jamie said, you know, we still try to make sure they use the agenda book and things like that, because we all know that the minute you need it, it's gonna have malfunction or kick you offline or something, so. But, any other questions? All right, thank you again.
I'm going to say 6:30. 6:02. They were just starting the Google.
Yeah, but they all
6:25.
5 wouldn't have been enough for them.
What time is it now?
7.
Okay.
Just make my phone.
Thank you to all the teachers for your time presenting tonight. I appreciate that. We are at 5.2, community participation. Please remember the 3-minute time frame. If you come forward, please do and use the microphone. With that, we will move on to new business. We have 6.1 change in appointments. May I have a motion to amend William Dowsland's effective start date as superintendent of schools from May 1, 2019 to July 1, 2019, and effective May 1, 2019, compensate Mr. Dowsland as middle school, high school principal at the rate of $132,500, prorated May 1 through June 30. A motion to rescind William Dowsland's appointment as co-coach of varsity softball for the 18-19 school year as recommended by the superintendent, and a motion to revise Zach Darrow's appointment from varsity softball co-coach to varsity softball coach for 18-19 school year.
Second.
Discussion? I do. In regards to the superintendent effective start date, over the past month, preparations have been underway for Bill to transition to the superintendency. We're all very excited about the transition and have been working with him to ensure the transition is smooth for him and for the district. In doing so, we discovered an oversight on part of the board. As we started to work through the oversight, we have determined that, with the help of Bill, that the transition date is not the best for the district. There are so many things that are important for the principal to handle at this time of year during the months of May and June. With regards to regents, AP exams, banquets, awards nights, and of course, graduation. Our hope as a board was that we could hire an interim that could handle all of these tasks. We didn't account for how much help somebody would need that wasn't already here to ensure that all of these things went smoothly. That's something that we were not being in the school every day didn't realize when we picked the appointment date We've talked about several options together, the board, Bill, Pete, and we've agreed that we would push off the effective date of Bill's superintendency until July 1. We hope that everybody understands that in doing so, we are not minimizing Bill's appointment. However, we are focusing on the needs of the district at this time and feel that the students of Hamilton Central School would benefit most for him to remain as the principal throughout graduation. So we are excited, and Bill is very excited and still working towards everything he needs to move Pete down the road. But we do think it's best for the district to put things on hold just for the time being. So we hope everybody understands that, and we're grateful for Bill and for Pete for these adjustments. And again, as we look at everything that we do, we put students first, and we think this is the best for our students. Other discussion?
Yes. As much as I enjoy falling on the sword, I think that had we selected an outside person as superintendent, Bill would have remained as the principal, and the problems that we now realize wouldn't have taken place. But since we picked the best candidate, and we had to make an adjustment because we can't have the person who knows how to finish the year be the superintendent when he needs to continue to be the principal. So that's my addition.
All those in favor for those 3 recommended actions?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to accept William Dowsland's resignation as secondary. Sorry. No. Let's start that again. Motion to accept William Dowsland's resignation as secondary principal effective June 30th to resume duties as superintendent of schools as recommended by the superintendent. Oh, I have it on the page. Motion to accept William Dowsland's resignation